Testing 1, 2, 3. To order. That's the regular meeting of the Joint Organizational Governance Committee of the Board of Retirement and the Board of Investments. Today being Thursday, November 16, 2023. It is 9 a.m. Next item is Pledge of Allegiance. All rise. And ready, begin. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next item is procedures for the teleconference meeting.
Trustee Ginsburg is participating in the meeting under AB 2449, just cause. Ms. Ginsburg, can you please confirm if you have anyone under the age of 18 present in your room?
No, I do not.
Okay, and just a reminder to please.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Over the age of 18.
There is nobody with me in my house.
Okay. And just a reminder, if you're going to speak, to please make sure the camera is on. I will go ahead and proceed with this meeting is being conducted as a virtual meeting and in person. So I will do a roll call of the trustees to confirm attendance. Mr. Bernstein? I'm here. Ms. Sanchez? Here. Mr. Santos?
Present.
Mr. Oakham?
Here.
Mrs. Jones?
Here.
Okay, Trustee Greenwood, David Green, and Trustee Kehoe will not be joining us today. Trustees sitting on both boards, I will do a roll call of Mr. Knox, Mr. Jason Green, Ms. Gray, Mr. Robbins, Mr. Sanchez, Mr. Harris, trustees on the Board of Investment, Mr. Rue, Mr. Jones, and Mr. Kelly. Staff participating in the meeting include the following: CEO Santos Kryman, DCEO Louis Lugo, Chief Counsel Stephen Rice, DCIO Jude Perez, AEIOs JJ Popovich and Laura Guglielmo, Director of Human Resources Carlina Toya, Chief Investment Technology Officer Kathy Delano, Information Security Officer Chet Arande, Interim Division Manager Roberta Manotrick, and we have the budget team on site: Caitlin Ung, Jason Hu, and Martin Sandoval. Trustees, please use the raise your hand option to be placed in the queue. At this time, we ask all meeting participants to mute their mic until you're ready to speak. And now we may proceed with the agenda.
Great, thank you, Linda. The next item is action for approval of the minutes for August 17, 2023. It's been moved.
Second.
It's duly second. Please vote.
Okay, you can. It's fine. I'll vote for you. Okay, Mr. Santos. Wait,
Yes.
1 second. Open vote. 1 second. Ms. Sanchez.
Yes.
Mr. Santos.
Yes.
Okay. The motion passed unanimously.
Great, thank you. This item is public comment.
No public comment.
No public comments. Next item, non-consent items, trustee education and trial policy.
Happy to answer any questions about the memo and the proposed revisions. There are two clarifications or comments that I wanted to make for the committee's consideration. First is, this isn't explicit in the memo, but trustees have commented over the past several months about the changes relating to trustees who were brand new, also applying to trustees who were returning after one or more gap year. And that was intended because they're new at that point in time. But I wanted us to be explicit about that issue in case there are any language changes the committee would like to make. And the second is that in October, there was a comment with respect to approval of administrative travel where the trustee involved was an officer of a pension organization, that perhaps that should not require board approval and could be addressed by the CEO. There is not a change currently to address that issue, but that would be easy to make if the committee so directs. And with that, happy to stand for questions.
I'm sorry, I missed your last point. You said that somebody who have been in another pension fund?
The issue was, Chair Santos, that Trustee Gray was requesting advance approval for all her upcoming administrative travel to attend meetings of the SACRS board. And a trustee had made the comment at that point in time, well, that should just be approved by the CEO. It doesn't require board approval. And that the policy currently requires board approval for all administrative travel.
Okay, I understand now. Mr. Bernstein?
Yeah, two comments. One is, I just would even rather go simpler. Our policy got changed and improved in many ways a few years ago, but it used to just be that once you were approved, by the board of supervisors, either through ratification of your election or through an appointment, you were eligible. I don't love making the CEO the gatekeeper for trustees executing their educational things. I can't imagine why anyone would want to not do orientation. And I don't love this sort of nanny-esque element of mandating orientation. I cannot envision why somebody would deny the opportunity to get oriented when they're new. I would rather just go back to what we used to have years ago, which is just to let certified or appointed trustees begin to use their own discretion to do educational and travel opportunities.
Thank you, Mr. Bernstein. Any other comments?
I've got a question.
Yes, sir.
Steve, so basically, you've got language in here under A, which allows, before they become trustees, to travel to certain events or certain meetings. Is that correct?
Yes, there had been comments by trustees made that they should be able to begin their education before they take office so they can get a running start.
Okay. And then are we looking at the CEO to make that decision, or are we looking to the?
This is the issue that Trustee Bernstein just raised. The change is written to provide that the CEO will be the gatekeeper. For that, wouldn't be time to take it to the board. So the proposal is that the CEO would be the gatekeeper of that, and Trustee Bernstein is commenting that maybe that CEO involvement is not necessary.
And just that there is historical precedent. As someone who has come back after gap years, I think 3 or 4 times, historically, once the Board of Supervisors ratified your appointment or certified your election, you had the opportunity to engage in travel and education. And it's also, I would point out, a 2 or 3 month period. There's just not even that much opportunity for abuse. And I don't know why a new person wouldn't use it responsibly, and it would simplify everything. I've made I don't know if anyone else agrees with me. That's my opinion.
Usually, Steve, that's not done until December. So you got a very short window until they actually become, a regular trustee.
Well,
now the elected ones become the earlier.
Yeah, the elected trustees are only certified in October, so
Right.
they would have 2.5 months. The appointeds are going to have a very brief window.
I think if we use good discretion, we're not sending them overseas, maybe we're sending them to Wharton, I don't know what, something like that, then I agree. But your appointed trustees, they're not going to, that window's too short.
I agree with you, Mr. Ocon, that this mostly applies to the elected trustees. I know that there was a concern that some trustees, elected trustees, did not avail themselves for the orientation. And that, to me, quite frankly, is problematic, because I think we should have the basics of the portfolio. I'm not going to sit here and say that the orientation is going to enlighten the individual, especially somebody like myself who's a criminal lawyer. I have no idea what goes on in here. So, but at least the orientation gives you the basics. So hopefully going to school will enhance the ability to understand the complex subject matter dealt. And I'm referring mostly with the Board of Investments. I know the Board of Retirement is also requires a lot of learning, but it's different. So my thinking, and I was one of the individuals who raised this issue, is that once the trustee is certified or the election is certified by the Board of Supervisors, that trustee should be able to avail herself of any material, I'm going to call them material classes, because the whole idea is to get that individual up to speed, hopefully up to speed by the time they take office. So I thought that by requiring the completion of the orientation, it was a good basis for that particular trustee to then go out and enhance that. I do agree with whoever mentioned about putting the CEO in a tough spot. I think and other pension funds, and correct me, Mr. Rice, if I'm wrong, that goes to the chair. The chair, unless if it impacts the chair, then it goes to the vice chair to make the decision. And it's up to the chair whether he or she wants to allow this particular trustee, brand new trustee, to go to those classes, given the fact and looking into the consideration whether or not she actually avail herself for the orientation. So that's the reasoning behind why I asked for this and why at one point we had similar language, although different, in the policy. But the goal here, in my mind, is I want to get these trustees as fluent on the subject matter as we can before they take office.
Can I ask a quick?
Yeah, Hartman, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just wanted to share that I agree with the recommended changes that are before us. And I do recognize the importance of also having the orientation completed prior to travel, which is what's included in here. I think that the orientation is extremely informative for new trustees. And I also think there's a piece of obligation on LACERA's part to impart this information to the trustee in the event they go to training and they say something or do something that they shouldn't have done. LACERA is able to say, we did orientation with you, we gave you the materials, you were aware of, the various factors that you should be, as a new trustee, you should be aware of. And trust me, I was a part of city government for many, many, many years before I came to be a trustee. And I knew the Robert Rules of Orders and various things. However, the orientation was still extremely informative and helpful coming in new as a trustee. So I hope that we're keeping that component as is in the policy. And then I think my question is in regards to the travel. If a trustee wants to engage in travel before, everything is formal, they still, my understanding, has to go through the administrative office anyway, work with Linda for that, and she helps ensure that it's according to the policy. So I think in somewhere in here it should share that the CEO has some authority, because if they're wanting to do something that's, kind of, can they do this but can't do that, and it may not be very clear in the policy, I would imagine that somebody's got to make that determining factor at the end. So I'm okay with it as written, but I'm also, I'm open if you want to amend it. But I think my understanding in doing the travel, there's an administrative component to it anyway. So that's
Mr.
all.
Ocon, then
Yeah,
Mr.
the only thing I would say is, I think before they go out and travel, John needs to make a class so they understand what our investment people are doing, okay? What their objectives are. And by doing that, you could bring in, okay, some of our top people that we work with on the outside that we invest for. And they could put a program together in a couple hours, which could give them the background. So if they go to Wharton, Stanford, UCLA, or whatever, they're going to understand what's happening. That's the only comment I would make, and that I would do that, sooner than later.
My understanding is that is taking
That is-
place. I don't know, Mr. Perez is here. Yes, thank you very much. Good point, Mr. Bernstein.
To me, it's very simple. First of all, international travel already has restrictions. You have educational requirements that they couldn't possibly complete before their term started. So I don't think international travel is even really on the table here for new trustees. I think that I also agree with Mr. Santos that the gatekeeper should be the board chair of the respective board and not the CEO. My recommendation, I think Ms. Jones' comments were also really appropriate. Why don't we just have it that once you're ratified or appointed, you're offered an orientation, and once you complete your orientation, you're eligible for travel.
That's fine. And I just wanted to respond really quick, and then we need to move on. With regards to a particular individual trustee, brand new trustee, asking something beyond the policy, you should go to the board. Because the board is the ultimate, especially with dealing with trustees. So if a trustee wants to go to, I don't know, whatever, some school in Miami, that is not part of the policy, then it should be up to the board. If I'm the chair, for example, and somebody comes to me and is not within policy, take it to the board. Let the board decide, and that way the CEO is of it's not placed in a position that has to make decisions contrary to a particular trustee. Anyway.
I agree. Also, practically speaking, the most
That's
logical
fine.
request is not to go to Abu Dhabi. It's to go to Rancho Mirage for Sackers in November. That's,
Right.
I mean, practically speaking, that's what's going to happen.
So,
Understand.
Gina stepped out.
all right, okay.
We'll come back to that, but we can go to the next item if you guys want to move on.
Okay, let's
Can we
do,
craft the motion, just so the motion's waiting to vote?
Yeah, we can do that. Wait,
And then it's just there.
I will entertain a motion for item subsection 8, revised trustee education and travel policy.
anybody second? Okay. We'll come back. Oh, here she is. Okay, we'll just,
Are there any amendments to the motion?
Do you want to go with mine, or do you want to go with staff recommendation?
Just taking the CEO out, just put in chair. That will be the amendment.
That's what I understood. Yes.
The only thing I would say there is that I think the chair should discuss this with the CEO, so he knows what's going on, okay? But the chair can make the final decision. I think the CEO should be involved in the operation as we go forward.
So in consultation? with the
In
CEO?
consultation with the CEO.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent, good.
yes.
She votes yes.
Forgot her phone.
Okay, so Ms. Sanchez is a
Sounds like
yes.
Mike Red.
Mr. Santos,
Yes,
Ms. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Bernstein,
Yes.
Mr. Oakham.
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes unanimously.
great, thank you. The next item, subsection B, document processing center classification and compensation study. Mr. Kryman?
Yes, Dr. Natoya will make the presentation.
Good morning, Dr. Natoya.
Hey, good morning. Thank you. So this is the last portion of the Document Processing Center Staff Assistant and Disability Retirement Specialist Classification and Compensation Study. The first portion of it was reviewed by this committee on April 27th, 2023, and then after that it was bifurcated. So we brought forward the items related to staff assistant and disability retirement at the September meeting. And so today we're considering recommendations for document processing coordinator and document processing assistant.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions? Your memo was well written.
Oh, fantastic. Thank
you. I'm clear on that. I don't know about my colleagues. Any questions? No, I will entertain a motion
So moved.
to approve the
Second.
staff recommendation. It's been moved and second.
By Mr. Bernstein?
Yes.
Second? Okay. We need a quorum, so we'll just wait, come back.
So she's on the phone? Oh, okay. All right. The next item is subsection C, CEO's salary designation authority upon the appointment of external candidate. Is that
This-
you, Mr. Natoya? Ms. Natoya? Dr. Natoya, I should say. Oh, my God. Sorry.
I think I'm taking the lead on that one. We are responding to comments made last week at the Board of Investments meeting in asking the committee and the boards to recommend and then approve ordinance changes to the county salary ordinance that will eliminate the requirement that currently only applies to external MAP Tier 1 and Tier 2 employees. That salary designation above step 12 requires the approval of the joint boards. The changes that are being proposed will provide that for those categories of new hires, just like is already the case with promotional hires and with step pay candidates, that the CEO's authority is the entire range.
Any comments, questions?
One question.
Yes, sir.
So this is, these changes can occur up to 12 without both boards' approval. Is that correct?
Currently, the CEO for MAP tiers 1 and 2 has authority only up to level 12 for external new hires.
Okay. Can we put something in there, can bypass the Board of Supervisors?
That's what this does.
But just in those
Well,
areas?
this ordinance change has to be approved by the Board of Supervisors.
Okay,
We can't get around that.
okay, okay,
This is the first step, correct?
This is the first step.
okay.
The only recommendation that I have, and I don't remember if it's in here, but notice to the boards in the CEO report.
Yeah,
It's in there?
Yes, this is.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So I will, if there's no other questions, I will entertain a motion.
Although I will say, it says on a periodic basis. Do you want that language to be clearer?
Yes.
It says correct? It says on a periodic basis, it would report to us.
Yeah,
It does, which mirrors the language that is already in the ordinance for step pay items.
yeah. I think as standard practice, when we make those decisions, and we would report it out
Next
immediately.
meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other points? I'm sorry, did somebody made a motion for approval?
So move.
Second.
It's been moved on second, and we just have to wait for the vote. All right, so then we go to next item, which is D. That should be easy. There was no items
Just
I
to
move-
cancel the meeting.
I move it that we,
for the
I
seventh.
move the, yeah.
I will second that. Any concerns,
Just a
questions?
question, does canceling a meeting require a motion? Can we just, I'm happy to vote to support it, but is it really required that we vote to do it? Okay.
At the beginning of the calendar year, this committee approved the
it.
calendar, so
All right.
need to do that.
Thank you.
So there's a motion
Something new.
We
that
need a
has been
second.
duly second. I will second that.
Okay, Mr. Santos seconded. Okay, so now on to the reports. Budget.
Just, Mr. Rice, just for point of information, the executive session piece, is that an action item?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so we need to, because I think what I'd like to do, if there's no objection, is to, once we get the quorum here, move right into executive session before we lose quorum, and then we'll come back for reports. There's no expeditious here. Okay,
Mr. Bernstein's getting.
okay.
Recording stopped.
We need a whiter.
Oh, wait, we need to vote out in open session, so let's first vote. Just-
Recording in progress.
Right.
Okay, so the first item was for the Document Processing Center classification and compensation. Mr. Oakham.
Yes,
Okay, I just need to, Mr.
here we go.
Oakham made the motion. Mr. Bernstein seconded. Mr. Santos?
Yes.
Ms. Sanchez?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Bernstein?
Aye.
Mr. Oakham?
Aye.
Okay, that ballot patches unanimously. Okay, the next one is the chief executive officer salary. Okay, and Mrs. Jones made the motion. Mr. Bernstein seconded. Mr. Santos?
Yes.
Ms. Sanchez?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Bernstein?
Aye.
Mr. Oakham?
Yes.
Okay, that passes unanimously. And the last item, Mr. Oakham made the motion. Mr. Santos seconded.
This is cancellation?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Santos?
Yes.
Ms. Sanchez?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Bernstein?
Yes.
Mr. Oakham?
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes unanimously.
Thank you for that. At this point, because of the quorum issue that we might be faced, if there's no objection, I'm going to move right into executive session and deal with that matter. And then when we come out of executive session, we come back for reports.
Recording stopped.
Responsible for the business services group, and that includes our administrative services division. The administrative services division, as you know, is responsible for the budget management and control. So our 2023-24 mid-year budget review is before you today. I'll go through these slides fairly quickly. It is fairly straightforward what we're here to do today. I would like to thank, though, the staff of the budget unit, Martin Sandoval, Kaylin Ung, Jackson Sue, and Calvin Cow, along with Roberta Van Nortruck, the interim division manager, administrative services division. They really did the work on this, as did our division managers, who were responsible for using the new budget system, which we are going to demo for the Operations Oversight Committee at the beginning of the new year, to be able to have the data available for the first time to make real-time decisions and understand their budget and have that true budget control responsibility. So next slide, please. So just very quickly, the LACERA's budget policy, which was revised last year as part of the adoption of the budget, grants the CEO authority to transfer up to $1 million across major accounts. And the JOGC's role is really, as the joint authority over the Board of Investment, Board of Retirement, is to make recommendations for actions to the BOR and the BOI. Today, that's not going to be required because the proposed actions do not exceed the CEO's authority. So there's no board action required today. And then our policy also requires that the BOR and BOI approve any transfers outside of the CEO's authority, any position changes. And again, today, there are no changes to positions proposed. And if there were any additional appropriation within the SERL limit, which there are no additional appropriations requested today. We're just going to be doing a series of reallocations within existing resources. Next slide, please. Or two. Thanks. So today our 22-23, it's supposed to be 23-24 administrative budget, just look at that. The budget was $135,740,000 $47,974. We're not recommending any change to that in our operating budget, but between the two major categories, salaries and employee benefits and services and supplies, we are proposing reallocating $92,000, and we'll get into what that's made up of in just a minute. So again, no overall change, but we are shifting money around, and we're going to talk about that in the next couple of slides. The most significant change that we are recommending as part of our mid-year budget is the establishment of a new account structure for the ethics and compliance unit. So this is something that we are working with the legal office on, and the audit committee on establishing a ethics and compliance role within LACERA. It is in the current budget, or in the 23-24 budget, we did have a funding and position authority for an ethics and compliance officer position, which is currently vacant, as we've been working with Chief Legal Counsel on the duties and responsibilities. We've put more thought into the role that we're expecting the individual to play and the role of ethics and compliance, and really elevating that role and responsibility within the organization. But we needed a new accounting structure to segregate those expenses from our legal division because of the SORL limits related to that. So we proposed transferring or reallocating funding within the $182,700 within the legal office into this new ethics and compliance unit, which will reside within the legal office. So it would be $90,700 for gross salaries, $8,000 for travel, $8,000 for memberships, $45,000 for education materials. There's going to be quite a significant endeavor with ensuring that the audit and ethics committee, as well as the staff, have the educational materials that we need to establish this new function. $3,500 for mileage and transportation, $20,000 for outside legal counsel. That cost has already been incurred to help us set up this framework, and $7,500 for registration fees. If you have any questions about this, we do have Chief Legal Counsel here, can talk about this a little bit further, or we can move on to the next item. And then this will be a permanent part of the budget. It'll be segregated going forward. This really just helps us put up the right account structure.
Mr. Kryman?
Yes, I just want to add that the establishment of a compliance unit is consistent with the strategic pillars that were approved by the Board of Retirement a couple of months back.
Good, thank you. I don't see no further questions.
Okay, next slide, please. Thank you. That was the most significant of the changes, but we do have several others that we're going to walk through. Okay, so for the Administrative Services Division, we are proposing reallocating $119,000 from our cyber liability insurance into other areas where expenditures are expected to exceed the budgeted authority, as outlined in the slide. So we purchased a new vehicle for our mailroom a year ahead of schedule. We were able to, the difference is the $22,000, which was not anticipated. That was required because of a safety recall that was we were not able to make the repairs that were required for the safe operation of that vehicle. It was due to be replaced next year. We just did it a year early, and that's the reason additional funding is needed. $12,000 for earthquake and flood insurance, which is really just market costs for those. That expense was higher than anticipated. Likewise, the reason we had the savings in the cyber liability is that, frankly, the efforts that LACERA has done over the last year, 2 years, in improving with the establishment of our information security office and the extensive work that we've done to harden our infrastructure here at LACERA, we were able to realize savings in our cyber liability insurance beyond what we had anticipated as part of the budget. So that's really exciting news, and we were very pleased for that. We're also requesting additional funding or moving funding to cover overages in our shredding and offsite storage contracts. These have gas surcharges associated with them, which because of the inflationary increase in it has really increased those costs. And also the volume has been higher than historic. And then lastly, our postage meter costs, we're proposing increasing that by $50,000, which has to do both with increases in postage costs, but also the increased costs for, or the higher volume of mailing that we are doing for our membership. The Board of Investments, we're proposing transferring or reallocating $54,000 from our memberships account and moving that into trustee registration fees. And that's primarily, that savings is anticipated because of the decision that BOI made to not to extend our Milken agreement. And instead, those funds will be then available for sending 4 new trustees to the Wharton program this year.
I got a question on that. So typically, without this 54,000 savings, won't the cost for sending new trustees to get educated at Wharton, wouldn't that be part already of the budget?
It would be, but we Wharton is an expensive program,
Right.
and at the time we developed the budget, we were kind of basing it on kind of historical. And keep in mind, the last couple of years, our history has not been great because of pandemic related travel has really brought things down. But we were concerned that there would not be sufficient flexibility within the funds to send the new trustees to Wharton and of all of the other travel that the Board of Investments is anticipated.
Yeah.
So this really just gives us the flexibility to make sure that the trustees are not constrained in any way. They wouldn't be. We would just have an over expenditure and we would report that and request it. But this just, we understand at this point in the year that this is a cost that wasn't anticipated as part of the budget.
Yeah.
No, I realize that, and it's kind of surprising to me, quite frankly, because this organization takes pride on the level of education. We take great pride on educating not only the staff but also the trustees. So it kind of surprises me because this got to be priority. We need to educate, especially now since we gave the CIO discretionary authority. We need to make sure that educating trustees is top priority because we all need to understand when the CIO comes in with new ideas or the many things that we do in the Board of Investments. It's really important that we get the best possible education to the trustees. Mr. Kryman?
Let me just assure you that the education of the trustees is of paramount importance to us, and it is a priority. We would find the money, quite frankly, in other areas of the budget and make sure that the education is available to our trustees now and well into the future. I think that this issue really is a timing issue. When we were putting the budget together, it was March, April. And we weren't sure exactly what was going to happen in terms of, if trustees were going to continue to run, whether they decided not to run. And so this year was a little different because we have a lot of new trustees that were elected and we have some appointed trustees that are brand new as well. And so it wasn't contemplated at that point in time. So it's really a timing issue, and we're just moving the money around to make sure that we have the funds available to send folks. So it's just a timing issue.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you.
And really, this was exactly in support of what you're talking about. We recognize we want to make sure that there was plenty of funds available for trustees to get the full education that they need and desire in order to do their job. The funding we just recognized we weren't going to spend the money in the membership area. But if we were, as Mr. Kryman indicated, we have sufficient savings elsewhere, we would have been able to do this without any need to do an additional appropriation. It's absolutely a priority to make sure that trustees have all the tools available to do their jobs well.
I appreciate that. And this is a very sensitive issue for me because when I first got elected, they just gave me a manual and said, here, see you later. That was it. So we have come a long way since then, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, but that was 25 years ago.
That's right.
The good old
20.
days.
We didn't have computers in, you know.
Did they have the Act of 37 then?
Anyway, the point has been made.
But I think Chair Santos's comment also should reflect, and that as we begin very soon the budgeting process for the new year, and recognizing that our current CEO's tenure has largely been defined by unexpected disruptions in travel. The history for those who've been here a long time is there are going to be people who object to us spending money on travel and education regardless. They're going to question why you went to Panera when you were at Rancho Mirage for Sackers. Our budgeting needs to ignore that and just set out what is a responsible amount of money to get the job done.
So we support that, and we will be making the appropriate adjustments. This part of the mid-year review, right, lets us understand where did we budget as a plan. Things don't always go exactly as you thought when you developed it. We have this opportunity to assess and revise, and it also informs the following year. So certainly this gives us an opportunity to assess, particularly travel. Did we allocate sufficient funds for travel to make sure that trustees or staff in that case, if that's an issue, have the access to the education that is necessary to do their jobs well.
And just because this is a public meeting, the thing that I left off, we have a very robust policy to make sure that the money that we're spending is being spent appropriately on worthy outcomes. That is the context. I'm just saying that we need to budget it, as the chair was saying, to get the job done.
I'll hardly agree.
Just one comment. Thank you. I think it was discussed at the time that we voted to eliminate the Milliken conference that budget would be reallocated, correct? I think that was the, yeah.
To education,
Correct.
right?
So is this the actual movement of the funds now? Okay.
Yes.
We're
Okay.
realigning.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
And I think it's important that my understanding is prior to when I got here, we didn't have a mid-year budget process. And so this is our attempt to make sure that we're transparent, that the board is informed.
It's more than an attempt, sir. I want to just say as a
Okay.
compliment,
Yes.
as somebody who complained for years about how opaque our budgeting and
Mhm.
reporting process was, I mean, this is nerd heaven. This is really delightful, and it's not that we don't think you're spending money responsibly. It's that the public doesn't know the difference between something being opaque because our systems aren't great and opaque because we're being deceptive.
Right.
This kind of transparency is so appreciated.
Right. Well, I appreciate that.
I echo Mr. Bernstein's comment. No question about it.
And as the budget nerd, I do really appreciate that comment as well. But you're absolutely right. We have an obligation to our members, to the public in general, to be opaque and to be transparent, or not to be opaque, to be transparent in everything that we do. And this process and this, our budget policy calls for that. It says even when board action isn't necessary, like today, we still come before you. We still explain what actions the CEO has approved so that and the public knows and our membership knows exactly how we're spending these dollars, because we do take our responsibility seriously. And as we have recently discussed, and I think this is a great way of looking at it, any dollar spent is a dollar not invested for the future benefit of our members. So we take that seriously. We want to make sure that we're spending that when we spend $1 here at LACERA, that it's going to have a greater outcome for the benefit of our members than if we were to invest it. So that's a high bar. So we take that very seriously.
And we
Um,
know where the dollar comes from, right?
We know where the dollar comes.
69 cents comes from investments.
That's exactly right.
10 cents come from my contributions and my colleagues' contributions. So
That's right.
something
And,
to remember.
Yeah, and our plan sponsors, but absolutely, it's the, 70% roughly comes from our investment earnings. And so it's really important. That's part of the reason that education is so important, because we don't want that to drop to a lower level, right? We would like that to be we would like those contributions to take a higher portion, not a lower portion. So making those good decisions is important. Next, we're going to talk about the reallocations within the executive office. This is ministerial, but our DCAO moved from having a LACERA vehicle to being on transportation allowance. So we needed to make an adjustment of $7,200 for that. Our member services, we are proposing reallocating, or we have reallocated $72,600 from salaries to agency temp to backfill a couple of positions until one position until an exam can be promulgated, which is in our hiring plan for, I believe, the beginning of the new calendar year. Next, we have our systems division. We are transferring or reallocating $200,000 from our knowledge and document management to land software licenses, and this is to support our information security, our new information security officer in consultation with our systems division, our chief information technology, and consulted about what needs are necessary in order to continue to ensure that LACERA is safe, assessing our needs and the tools available for us. And so this transfer allows that the funds to be in the proper account in order to make sure we put the proper tools in place to really, and those tools are evolving. It's a rapidly changing environment, and we're paying close attention to that. So this allows us to make sure those tools are where they need to be. And also $50,000 from our LAN network hardware in order for our remote workforce equipment, just making sure that the staff that all staff have the ability to have the tools to work as efficiently at home as they do here in the office.
As well as in a plane, right?
Wherever they need to work. That's right.
Thank you.
And then next, we're going to talk about the retiree healthcare benefits program budget. As you know, it's separate from our administrative budget. This for the retiree healthcare, we are transferring or reallocating $165,000 from our gross salaries, and in order to fund our agency temps. And this has to do with staffing issues. We have we want to make sure that we're maintaining the high quality and the level of service to our members who require services from retiree healthcare. We have a couple of positions that are vacant as we're waiting to fill those through our normal process. We are using agency temps. That was not anticipated at the start of the budget, but we are working hard to fill those positions now. And that concludes the reallocations. We also have our budget to actual for the first quarter. So you can see that we are, it looks like we have more savings in our salaries and employee benefits. Keep in mind, with our new budget system, which we did use to produce all of this year, which was great, we have real-time knowledge that, like from the night before, for our salaries and supplies, but for our services and supplies, but our salaries and employee benefits come from the county's payroll system. So there's about a 2-week delay. So for our first quarter year end, it's a little bit underrepresented in this amount, but we are on track to be pretty consistent with our budget plan as anticipated. So we are excited about that. Next slide, please. And then this is the breakdown by division, and you can see from this slide where the actual expenditures to date are for that first quarter for each of the divisions. And you can see overall, we are in safe territory where we anticipate most likely a small surplus at the end of the year, but sufficient flexibility to be able to use our funds. One of the, as we kind of talked about previously in terms of the idea with our budget, which is really different sometimes from a lot of government budgets, is that we have the flexibility to be able to do our job and do what's necessary for the benefit of LACERA. But we're not so resource constrained that people feel the need to hoard. So everyone here at LACERA, when they're making their decisions to purchase something, to fill a position, how we're going to spend our funds, we take that very seriously. As I said, it's a dollar spent is a dollar not invested. So it's appropriate for us to have surplus at the end of the year. But we do want our plan to give us sufficient flexibility, but also to be reasonably close. And we feel like we're on track for that this year, and we're very pleased about that.
Mr. Ockham?
Laura, thank you for your presentation. One question I would have, we're at 82%, and we should be at 75. Where is that other 7% or so?
Part of
When
yeah.
will that be? Is that just big items that will come later on in the year?
It's a combination of things. A part of that, if you go to the previous slide, Linda. Whoops. Yes, on this one, if you see for services and supplies, we're at 78%.
Yeah.
And for salaries and employee benefits, which is the majority of our costs, we're at this 83%. So that combined, it's about 82%. So again, the salaries is a pay period behind. So it's pretty close to.
Is that because we have so many open positions?
No, we do have open positions. It's behind the plan. It looks like it's behind the plan because our information is 2 weeks old. So this doesn't reflect the last 2 weeks of the pay period where we had actual expenditures.
Okay.
Yeah.
We do have vacancies. As part of our budget, we planned based on, we had a hiring plan at the beginning of the year. We are executing that hiring plan. We report on that monthly. So we are pretty well aligned with that. So our budget did anticipate delays in filling, or not delays in, anticipated when positions would be hired throughout the year. And there are some expenditures that are at different times of the year. So, your salaries tend to be pretty consistent across the year with a couple of blips where you have extra payouts. And some expenses are like that. But like if you look at our insurance, for example, that's paid in July. So, it's a big expense at the beginning of the year and then you don't see it later. And then there are other expenses where we will see larger expenses that haven't yet been realized. So
But the salaries, employee benefits, that won't change a lot, will it? Or is that because you haven't put in the last couple of weeks? That's why it's at 83?
Yeah.
yes, it says last 2 weeks.
All right.
But it's, it can change based on actual hiring decisions, promotions for people in place create vacancies elsewhere, which may not have been anticipated. New hires, are whatever,
I got you.
it-
How much fluff do you have, or not fluff, that's the wrong word, at 135? Where do you actually think it's going to come in?
well, if we base it of last year's, which the next item is our, or provided for you was the closeout for the 22-23 year, we came in pretty close to plan. So,
That number was what?
oh goodness, hold on. Don't have that in front of me. I don't. Does someone remember? I'll have to look that up for you
No,
because I
that's
can't
okay.
recall.
That's okay. But
I will
but
say
you-
it was, I would say, where do I think we're going to end up? A little too soon to tell.
Okay.
But we will be, we are monitoring this now. Division managers are monitoring this monthly. Our budget unit is looking at this very carefully as well as executive office. I think we're probably going to be within 5%.
The information
If I
is right
had
there.
to take my crystal ball, which is not very clear.
The information is right next to you.
See how good they are. They're so good. All right. Last year, our budget was $127.8 million. We utilized 87.8%. So 5% is probably not enough. Maybe it's probably going to be closer to this 10 to 12%.
Good,
I
thank
just,
you.
you know, this is great. And we have people who are much more familiar here with the public budgeting process. Coming from the private budgeting process, it takes some time to understand that the system sort of requires that you have these shortfalls, that you put in requests that are actually greater. And what was missing for a long time was sort of the understanding of how it unfolded. And the clarity is so valuable, especially for people coming from the private process who just think, when you're not spending 12% of your budget, what's going on? And a lot of it's structural, but seeing this more clearly along the way makes all the difference. It really does.
Absolutely. And, I think the other thing is that now we have a new budget system, the Questica budget system, which we're really excited to demo for you all in the Operations Oversight Committee. Really provides managers with the tools to really see how their funds, when they're making decisions, they're making informed decisions in a real-time basis. And it allows a lot more transparency for the management team as well. It was not something that we had a lot of transparency for. So I think that in the past, we had difficulty answering questions and explaining things because we were not as informed as we needed to be as well, because the tools just weren't there. So everything was so delayed. Having this more at our fingertips really gives us the tools that we need to do our jobs effectively. And there will still be, flexibility built into our budget process. It is different than the private sector, where you are really managing your budget to your revenues. This is a different process. We are managing our budget to our needs, and that is very different than the private sector.
Yeah.
I'm doing a good job.
Thank you.
I just wanted to add that part of the answer to the question that you proposed, Trustee Oakham, we had anticipated a new RBS 1 class in October. When did we?
Last year was
But it was actually delayed because of the ordinance challenges that we had with the CEO, which, by the way, I believe they did the second reading yesterday, and so those ordinance positions that allows us to overhire to start the new class are in place now. And so we anticipate having that new class after March Madness, and so we're planning on trying to get people on board by April or May at the latest to move forward and augment our existing staff in the member services and benefits sections. So it's always a timing issue. We anticipate, like I said, we put the budget together in April, May, and the plan doesn't always pan out the way you envision it at that point in time. And so
What I'm looking at, Mr. Kryman, is that I remember 4 years ago, it was about 115 million, 112 million, something like that. And you guys have done an excellent job of keeping the expenses where they should be, because last year you said you were 127, I don't know, but you saved about 12%. If you save 10% this year, that's $13 million, get you down to 123. And it's not that much higher than it was, Steve, a few years ago. So doing a great job. Thank you.
Good.
Right.
Any other questions?
Just a question or a comment. Will you present this for the December cutoff, the same report, or is it just September?
This is provided as part of our mid-year process, but when we bring forward our budget for our proposed budget for the 24-25 year, which we will be giving you the board and the JOGC an update on what our expenditures are at that point.
Okay.
And, you
Yeah.
know, and frankly, we have the ability to run reports monthly to see how we're doing. So if there's ever any question about it, I would encourage trustees to reach out to the CEO, and we'd be happy to provide that. It's something where we're actively monitoring. We would schedule something or request something to be scheduled if we had any concerns.
We you know, the new budget system has just been implemented, and so we need to test drive it. And then we'll see what sort of regular reports, whether we report out to the JOGC, you know, on a quarterly basis, whenever you have a meeting. That's something that we have to discuss. We have to take a look at the reports and see how things line up. And so I think in the future, you'll see more budget reports that you can take a look at just to make sure that we're spending the dollars wisely, and any changes that are being made by the CEO's office or the executive office, we'll highlight those items on an ongoing basis. But right now, we're just not ready to implement that. But that's something that Laura and her team are going to be working on.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So the next item is from information only. So unless there's any questions with regards to item B, we are done with reports. Items for staff review
Nothing to report.
and items for future agenda
Nothing to report.
and good of the order.
I do have guess a bit of an announcement to make. I did get confirmation from Supervisor Holly Mitchell's office today. I reached out to them because I have made a decision to retire. Not only retire from my work with the city of Culver City, but also retire from my work here as well. Just take a whew. So I'm very excited. So I did reach out to her and they have made a selection. Her name is Joy Higa. And I understand that she comes with lots of experience with the CalSTRS board. And so my understanding is she will be appointed in December at the supervisors meeting in December. And so December will be my last meeting here. And I'm excited for my future, but I'm also very appreciative and hugely thankful for having the appointment. I've learned so much this last year, and I hope that my contribution to the board while I was here was beneficial. And you know, it's a bittersweet moment because I've been in government for 20 years now, or my daughter's 25, same age as me now, because I'm 25 and holding. So I started government when she's actually turning 26. So I started government when she was 1 year old. So I am really excited for what I'm going to do next, but very thankful for the time that I have spent here, and also very thankful that there is a replacement coming. And so that person will be starting, I guess, in the new year. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. We're gonna miss you, but I understand because I'm right behind you. Any other items for good of the
I
order?
just have one thing. I don't know who you cheer for. It's gonna be a good game on Saturday, and it's the normal UCLA game. It's not the Michigan-Ohio State game, which will be the biggest game this year in college football and determine a lot. But I just like to, I've got 2 grandkids coming home this week, so we can enjoy Thanksgiving. I'd like to wish everybody a very happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy your family and make it a very safe one.
Good, thank you. Anybody else?
I just,
Yes, sir.
I had no idea that you were dropping that bombshell, and I just want to thank you for your service to LACERA and celebrate these new adventures and wish you all the best. And I agree with Mr. Oakham that wishing everyone a very joyous and safe Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I certainly want to thank you. And I thank all the appointees. You provide a tremendous service to the county employees. for managing such a large fund. And you're doing it for free, pretty much. $100 doesn't even pay for gas. So thank you very much. I really appreciate your service and wish you a lot of luck in your retirement.
Thank you.
And Mr. Kryman.
No, I just wanted to express my appreciation and on behalf of my staff, their appreciation as well for your service. I had an opportunity to have dinner with you and talk shop, and it was always a pleasure. I always learned something when we finished our conversations, and so just wanted to say thank you for your service and congratulations on retirement. I hope to get there one day.
Yes.
And so I just wanted to, and then of course, we also ran across each other prior to me becoming the CEO.
Yes.
And so that was always fun. But I do want to say that your service has been greatly appreciated, and you've challenged my staff, especially in your role as the chair of the audit committee. And so I think we're a better staff for it. So thank you very, very much.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, thank you, Mr. Kryman, for the work you did at Soccer's. I know you're going around trying to get support for a legal action that is pending before the Court of Appeals. I made a presentation to the trustee at the trustee meeting, and I pretty much begged everybody there to take our ask for support for a legal action to the respective boards, because I understand that some CEOs in other funds are not even, were not willing to take that request to the board. It was really interesting because after my presentation, asking the trustees to take the matter to the boards, a couple of them came up to me and they thanked me for letting them know, because they had no clue. And they had 1937 Act funds, so potentially they could be facing the same situation. So thank you for that. The work doesn't stop here. When we go out in the different organizations that we belong to, we need to advocate. And so thank you. That is part of your job.
Thank you.
So appreciate it. Anybody else? Mr. Rice. All right. So I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Thank you. Need an adjourn.
Recording stopped.